Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of So Now You're a Teacher. I'm your host, Liesl McConchie, international expert in brain-based learning, author, teacher, and mother of 3 who put on makeup for the first time at 9:30 p.m. to shoot this video while my children are sleeping. In this episode, we're going to answer the question, with all that's going on in the world, is it even possible for my child to learn? In our last episode, we learned about stress, where it comes from, and why so many people are freaking out right now, for good reason. I hope you've taken a few things off of your list of things that are super important. We're talking about the relevance category over here. I hope you've reduced the number of things that are highly relevant to you to help you manage your stress, and that you've also found ways to increase your level of control to manage your stress. That has happened for you and for your children. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the human brain and what stress does to the brain and how it impacts your child's ability to learn. Welcome to the human brain. This is the front of your brain. This is the back of your brain right here in the green. And this is the outer layers and the outer lobes of your brain. You are not going to learn what all of these things mean. This is just something I happen to have lying around my house for another project I was working on with the Lego company in Denmark. And so we're going to take a look at the human brain and the inside. So we're going to take away these outer layers of the brain. We're going to get inside to the limbic system, the midbrain right here. And there's a little part of the brain right here, this little blue piece right here. It's in the middle of your brain. It's called the amygdala. Perhaps you've heard of it before. It's about the size of an almond. You have one on each side of your brain. The amygdala is your emotional control center. That means that it is your threat detector. Whenever it senses any kind of threat, it activates and it jumps into motion and starts making things happen in your brain to help protect you and to keep you safe. So one of the things that triggers the amygdala is stress. Whenever there is high levels of stress happening in your brain, the amygdala can sense that and it jumps into action and tries to reduce that, tries to take care of you because it knows that stress is threatening you and your brain and your body as well. Now, trying to learn when your amygdala is highly active, trying to learn like regular school content, when your amygdala is active is equivalent to trying to drive a car when the emergency brake is on. If the amygdala is hyperactive, it's like trying to drive a car with the emergency brake on. It's just, in most circumstances, not going to happen, or at best, happen at a very poor or low level. Here's why. Because the brain is designed for survival. That's right. The brain is not designed for formal education. It is not designed for the school system, especially the school system that you experienced and that your children are experienced. The brain, its main purpose is to simply keep you alive. And so whenever there's a stressful experience, the amygdala says, whoa, this is important, relevance is high. And so it jumps into action and it shuts down all parts of the brain that are detracting from its main job to keep you alive. And one of those parts of the brain that the amygdala can shut down is this front part of the brain right here, this orange portion right here behind your forehead. It's called your prefrontal cortex. Now, unfortunately, the prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain that is responsible for a lot of learning that happens. I'm going to keep this as simple as possible, but any processing of new input that's coming into your brain, into your child's brain as they're trying to learn, it all gets processed and filtered through your prefrontal cortex. All of your rational thinking, critical thinking, long-term planning, all of those types of things, and processing the moment of now and processing the input that's coming from a teacher or from the screen or wherever they're getting their information from right now. It's all going through the prefrontal cortex. But the amygdala shuts down the prefrontal cortex when there's high levels of threat or stress, high levels of anxiety, high levels of fear. Those are some of the biggest triggers that can shut down the prefrontal cortex. And the amygdala does that. And it's important that the brain can do that because it helps us stay safe. But in a learning situation, it can be really detrimental. I mean, we could use a more appropriate analogy, well, at least for the given context, is that when the amygdala is activated at a high enough level, it basically puts the prefrontal cortex on lockdown and it quarantines all of its functions so that it can handle more pressing needs like we're experiencing right now with the global pandemic. So that's what stress does to your brain. What it does to your body isn't all that great either. Stress creates inflammation in the body, and even the healthy stress creates inflammation, but low levels of inflammation is fine. When we get to chronic inflammation, meaning stress is prolonged and at high levels, inflammation can occur. And chronic inflammation is connected to all chronic diseases. We're talking all the big bad ones: heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, diabetes. They're all connected to chronic inflammation. So yet another reason why it's really important for us to be focusing on stress. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, guys, but I know you're trying to manage all the logistics of what to do with your children being at home. And many of you are also trying to work while your kids are at school, in your house, right next to you, or in the room next door. And stress levels are high. And I just want to make sure that we understand that I'm going to help you get to some of those next steps, but the parking brake is on. And if that parking brake stays on, the frustration and the stress is just going to continue to block our efforts to be able to learn and for you to be able to get some of your work done. So we can do this. So is your child capable of learning right now? I don't know. It depends. You know your child, you know their level of stress right now. Hopefully you guys are having some great open conversations every day about that. And you remember all these strategies on how to rebalance that equation so that stress levels can reduce and get to a functional level. That's your main priority right now, is reducing the stress in the brain. Next episode, I'm going to share 7 research-based strategies to reduce stress in the brain. Now we're going to get into the details, specifics. Here's exactly what you can be doing every day for your child, with your child, to keep those cortisol levels low so that learning is possible. It will be possible. If it is right now, great. I'm so happy for you. That's wonderful. If it's a struggle, my guess is that stress is at least one of the reasons why things are a challenge for you right now. And so I'm really excited for next episode if you can jump in and grab some of those strategies. So until next time, take a deep breath. Oxygen is good for the brain. You can do this.